Yeah, I just love the process, and then eventually I started doing that for other people, producing some other albums, and yeah, and that kind of carried over into podcasting. That's a big part of what I like about like radio and podcasting is kind of mixing in some music and just producing a show that is interesting for listeners to come back and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and you're involved in some interesting podcasts. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it started with the Music Forte, which was awesome. We were interviewing all of the indie artists and just talking about the music scene as a whole.
Hmm.
And and then the new one I started this year, I think we're about, I don't know, maybe 7, 8 months in, is about spirituality. It's called The Fundamental Escape, and with a friend of mine in New Zealand. And man, was what that's been an amazing experience as well. I like
Yeah,
no
it's really
part of my
cool.
life did I seek out to do a podcast about like religion or faith or spirituality. But it just happened. And that was, Mark was a friend of mine. I wanted to kind of build this theme around the subject matter we like to talk about. And it's important to note that like we're not proselytizing any one belief system. It's just we're
Hmm.
talking to all different people from all different faiths and beliefs. And just that journey has given me the ability to better articulate my own beliefs and my own thoughts about religion and spirituality. So even even that right there, it's been worth it. But people seem to really like what we're doing. I mean, we're getting a lot of plays. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting. I listened to a bunch of episodes and checked out what I could since I met you.
Hmm.
That was kind of the thing that I remember hearing you talk about before I even talked to you on Blab. I remember you talking about that podcast specifically, and then you shared the URL, and I went on there and just kind of took my time. And you mentioned a few shows that were of interest, so I listened. And yeah, it's interesting how you. I mean, do you think that kind of took you out of your comfort zone and stretched you a bit?
It's a good question, Mike. Man, put me on the spot here. Outside the comfort zone. Yeah, I've kind of I've only been really the co-host. We've done 21 episodes now. Actually, we have 23, but they're not all uploaded yet. Um, I've only been the co-host where I'm in the discussion with the guests. I think maybe 5 or 6 times,
Uh huh.
and the rest I just do the intro. I do like, for about 2 minutes. I just listen through
Hmm.
because I also mix and edit and just give my feedback on the discussion Mark had.
Right.
And yeah, because it's like, you know how it works. It's almost like too many cooks in the kitchen. Sometimes if there's 3 people in a podcast
Yeah.
or a conversation, it's there's too much overlap going on.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and yeah, it's like Mark's story in terms of this subject matter is definitely a lot more interesting than mine, because he was a former street preacher.
Wow. Yeah.
And he's and he's totally like broken away from that. And yeah, he's kind of going through a journey in the show itself. And so am I. But yeah, it's been really cool, man.
Well, I think the cool thing about it you mentioned is that it sort of leads you towards learning new things. I think, I mean, I say stretching you, but I think that's just opening you up for more possibilities with wherever you're headed. And, learning new things like that. I kind of have similar experience, and it, interestingly enough, is involved with that world of spirituality as well. I don't talk
Right.
about it too much, but it's helped me sort of move in more directions and explore more. and thus it's opened up my future to more possibilities. I think I've learned so much just by listening and not necessarily being directly in, like you're saying, you're kind of doing this post-production aspect of it.
Right.
And I'm the same way. I was doing the same thing with a specific client, and it really opened me up to so many more possibilities. And I'm really grateful for it now. Looking back at kind of where I've been because of that specific work, I actually real grateful that I went through and did a lot of it. All of it, not just a bit.
Yeah, it's I don't see any negatives in the experience for sure, but something else that's cool about this project, and same with Music Forte, it's like having like 3-4 years removed from the Music Forte podcast, I was not sure like today's landscape in terms of finding guests.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, man, is it going to be hard to find guests in this new genre, so to speak? Man, I could not have been more wrong. Like
Yeah, you guys have some really interesting people.
man, yeah, and I mean, part of that is because Mark is, he's very good at just finding guests and kind of communicating with them, and that's kind of a skill in itself is booking people on the show. But
Yeah, I agree.
I've helped a little with that, and yeah, like we got some big names, man, and yeah, we like, man, I'm just kind of skipping through right now, like Paul Young, who wrote The Shack. That was probably our biggest episode. That was kind of like our breakout episode.
Oh yeah.
But some of these people, like, Gavin McInnes, Brian McLaren, Scott Harrison, Milo Yiannopoulos, who's pretty hot
Yeah.
in the media right now. Yeah, like these guys at this level, I would have thought it would have taken, man, like a year, maybe 50 episodes before we could even like send a message. But we were finding that we were just sending an email like, hey, would you be interested in coming on the show? They're like, yeah, no problem. We're like, really? Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, how about next week? Hey, yeah, great. I'll be there.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's like, wait, that's like too easy. So
Yeah, it doesn't seem to always happen that way, does it?
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to put myself in the listener's shoes right now, who may be on the fence of starting a new podcast. I mean, there is a lot to think about, a lot to manage, and you and I have talked about this outside of the show here, just about like what falls into the category of production.
Right.
There's a lot that goes into making a good show. It's not just turning on your crappy microphone and hitting the record button.
Right.
But maybe that's kind of like a discussion in itself. So if you want to go deeper into that, let me know. But
Yeah, that's a whole separate rabbit hole right there.